We're going to start with an intro of the United Kingdom for comparative politics. So this is going to be basic information about the geography, ethnicity makeup, regime, and political culture of the UK. So I don't want to assume that anybody knows, so I'm going to go over the geography of Great Britain. Okay. That says officially the United Kingdom of Great Britain, Northern Ireland, or UK or Britain, but it's going to include England, Wales, Scotland, which is the northern part of the Great Britain island, and the top part of the Ireland island, which is Northern Ireland. So all of this together is going to be the UK. It is unique in the fact that it is one state, so one state meaning it is one country with sovereignty over these different areas, these different geographical locations. Technically, Great Britain is this big island, and like I said, when you want to call it the United Kingdom, it's all of the holdings of the big island plus Northern Ireland included. In a weird way, the geography of the UK, because it is set off of Europe, creates this mentality and this culture that Britons are apart from Europe, but they're still considered a part of Europe. So it's a dichotomy of, yeah, we're part of the European continent, but since we are an island and we can avoid direct contact with the other European states, we have our own identity. Population. There are 4 nations. So remember, a nation of people have a common religion or common language, ethnicity, tradition, customs, things like that. So you have your 4 nations of the English people, the Scottish people, the Irish people. Oh, and the Welsh. But most of the people who live in Great Britain are English, and therefore England is pretty much the dominant power of the Parliament. Then you have about 8% Scottish, 5% Welsh, and 3% Northern Irish. So, as a unified state, one that doesn't have federalism, but one central location of power in the London Parliament, it makes it difficult for the London Parliament to govern all of the different ethnicities and smaller groups that you will find in the United Kingdom. That's why the Parliament has agreed to devolve some of the power to the subnational units of government, and that's why Northern Ireland, when it has its act together, has a parliament, and Scotland and Wales have their own individual little governments going on. And when we get to levels of government, I'll go over that. Legitimacy. So here is a picture or depiction of the Magna Carta being signed, and this is Queen Elizabeth II. So its legitimacy is considered an evolutionary democracy. Because the democracy didn't happen overnight, you can't point to a day on a calendar like we can in the United States and say, in the United States, September 17th, 1787 is the day we become a constitutional democracy. They don't have that in the UK. Their democracy evolved over centuries. So they have a legitimacy that's based on tradition, which is based in the tradition of having a royalty or a crown, and then rational legal authority. And that does it, because they don't need a codified or written down constitution. They just look through the important legal documents and the common law precedent that has been set, and they are able to govern the people like that. If you have any Harry Potter fans, I'm not really a huge Harry Potter fan, but I just think of that episode, or the one Harry Potter movie where the awful headmistress, and I can't think of her name now, and I know that I'm going to get trolled for this, but every time she wanted to change a rule, she would have it hung up on the wall, and then eventually the wall was just covered with all of these different rules. That's kind of how I like to imagine what the UK's legitimacy looks like. So instead of having one succinct constitution, they just have a smattering of all of these different rules and laws that make up the legitimacy of their government. And really, the person who is the symbol for the legitimacy of the British government is the Queen. Don't ask me like why that did that. Regime. It is a consolidated liberal democracy. So remember, consolidated liberal democracy is the best kind. That means that it's not just a democracy on paper, but it's also a democracy in procedure. It has a vibrant civil society. Individual freedoms and liberties are protected. And let me talk about the Freedom House scores. So remember, 1 is most free, 7 is least free. It has a 1 on the freedom rating, political rights, and civil liberties. Okay. Political socialization and culture. Steeped in tradition, just like their tea. See what I did there? Tea is steeped. They drink a lot of tea. Their political culture is steeped in tradition, like the tea. Okay. It was once a global empire, and that is something that has led to a sense of pride. So the legacy of colonialism really has shaped part of their political culture. So going back to how they were the colonial rulers over Nigeria, which they handed over independence to in 1960. The crown is central to the political culture as well. The queen is the head of state, and she is a unifying symbol, like I said before. The royalty and the goings-on of the royal family are very much paid attention to and followed. And socialization happens early, just like in the United States. The process of learning about politics and political culture really starts at the root in the family and then in schools. And politics are really important. And from that, we'll start government institutions.